At the end of the day, people all around the world take part in the same ritual that's been around for centuries. They gather at a table or a mat with friends or with family, and they share a meal. The food varies, so do the languages being spoken, but the goal is the same all around the globe: to share the human experience of connecting with people they care about. So what happens when people on one side of the world move to the other, bringing their recipes, their languages, and the best parts of their cultures with them? If you're lucky, you get to share a table and that culture with them and call them friends. I'm so happy you could make it up from the city today. I know it was a bit of a trek for you.
This was not bad. Like just an hour and a half on the train, so.
Excellent. Sasha has become a good friend of mine. She happens to be a friend of my good friend, the videographer. And I met her a year ago and was just enamored with her life and her energy. She's a terrific person. She's an actress who also tends bar at a bar in the city. She came to the United States 7 years ago from Russia with just $300 in her pocket and has led a very interesting life, and I'm really anxious to share that with you. She's actually also a very good cook, so we're going to make one of her meals today. One of the things that I always find interesting is sometimes your friends call you Alex and sometimes they call you Sasha. What's the catch?
Since I was a kid, my mom called me Alex, but Sasha, it's another version. It's not like just a nickname, it's actually a diminutive from Alexandra. But my friends call me Sasha or Sanichka or Sanya. It's like a lot of versions of it. So I like it both. Yeah.
I think today we'll call her Sasha.
Cool. I'm cool with that. It's my name, so I'm cool.
So, what are we making today?
We're gonna make stir-fried fern. It's a really interesting taste to it because it does taste like mushroom. Oh. So you can substitute it in a lot of dishes. And we can just make it as a salad, you know, kind of like a cold salad or like appetizer. Or like you can put it over rice.
Can you tell me just sort of an overall process of how we'll prepare it?
So it's already boiled. What we need to do today to blanch them to make it a little softer. Mm-hmm. While we prepare our carrots and onions, it's gonna marinate with soy sauce, sesame oil, and a little minced garlic. And it's gonna have like a little nice flavor of garlic. Oh, I love it. To be honest, this is I haven't had at home, right? Back in Russia, we will substitute with some pepper. But now I live in New York.
So you have access to all kinds of stuff that you didn't have at home.
Yeah, so when you invited me to cook that, I went to the store and I saw this. It's Korean paste. It's spice paste.
Oh, this is great. Like, so it'll even be new for you.
Yeah, it's new for me, so I don't know how spicy it is. So it's going to be really spicy. We will be very, very careful with that.
So a lot of cultures use what they have at hand depending on the season, depending on where they are in the world. And so sometimes the same dish can taste very differently.
Yes, we substitute a lot of things with whatever we got in the fridge. So you cannot waste. My grandmother went through their World War II, right? So you have to eat everything what is on your plate. And that's why it's every time you cook, it could be different. You know, you can't really go wrong. But I still can't get the way my grandma was doing. You know, I can do the same recipe, the same amount of everything which she like wrote me down, and it will be different. I think it's just because, you know, we love our grandmas and moms, so it's always going to be better than you actually do it yourself, you know? It's always better when somebody prepares food for you, right?
and I think that's pretty true of every culture, to be honest. Well, I'm excited to try it, so I guess we should get started.
Yeah, let's do it. Just gonna put it in our boiling water. We're gonna just put it top and it's gonna steam it.
Okay.
Because it's already cooked, so we just need to blanch it for like a minute or two. The carrots we can do, instead of cutting the carrots, we can do like
like this? Like shred them?
I was like, what's a word for it?
Lost in translation. Okay.
Well, you will need to make it yourself later.
Yeah, I'm totally going to make this again, I'm sure. So, okay. But
Yes.
I have to go. Okay, so I have to go find the ferns. Where can you find them in a standard grocery store? Or do you have to go to a Korean grocery store?
Yes, I think it's a Korean grocery store. Like, I
Okay.
don't know if you have it up here, but in the city we have now even on Upper West Side.
So I think that's the cool thing about living in the city, though. I mean, you have every cultural anything available at your fingertips, and in other places of the country, I don't know that we could say that really.
Yeah, it's fantastic. To be honest, like when my mom first visited me, and she was here for 2 weeks, and almost every day I was taking her to try different food. And
Did she like it? Did she enjoy it?
She did. And you know what was her favorite?
Tell me.
Chinese.
Well, considering the influence of Asian food in Russia, maybe in some ways reminded her of home, which is
Yes,
still so
exactly.
fascinating to me, I think people have a lot of misconceptions about other cultures. When I think of Russian food, I think of beef stroganoff and,
Borscht.
caviar. And, yeah, exactly.
My dad will go fishing, and after he'll bring all the fish at home, we'll make our own caviar, buckets of it. So
Your own?
Yeah. I know. My mom will use our tennis rackets for it because, fish eggs comes in this kind of like pack, right? And you have to clean them really carefully or they're going to pop. And
I had no idea.
it's so funny because I don't have a sweet tooth, right? People offer me like a cupcake and I say, I prefer caviar. And I was like, and then I realized how bougie I sound, But when we moved from island to Siberia, and I remember first time we went to the store to buy it, we were shocked how expensive it was.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we need to...
Because then we could just take the whole thing right over.
I can do this.
Yeah?
Ooh.
Oh, look at you.
Ooh.
I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I feel like... Ooh.
Okay, cool.
Steamy. All right.
All right, cool.
So now we need to cool this down a little bit.
No.
Which is like, it's cool. We can finish with our prep work.
Okay. Sure,
Just like cut them in half.
So you said you moved to Siberia. Talk about stereotypes, right? People hear Siberia and they think frigid cold and no civilization and but it's clearly not like that because you live there. So
Well, I'm from a big city. We moved in the third biggest city in Russia, Novosibirsk, which is like it's a biggest city in Siberia. I would say like size-wise, it's like Chicago.
oh, that
And
is big.
It's really big academic town there. Like it's a lot of universities. And I confuse people and I make jokes. I said we don't have electricity yet. Maybe next year. Well, it's not true. Like of course we do have electricity, and it's it's like we do. Okay.
Am I cutting these the way you want them?
Yes.
Short, thin
What I'm
slivers.
supposed to about?
Okay.
We have no restrictions.
God, you know?
girl. So now we're gonna heat it up. Do you have like olive oil or
yeah,
something?
absolutely.
Let's get
Are we doing this by eye? Just a little bit
Yes,
in
we're gonna do it by eye.
the... Okay, don't put that in there. Okay, so I have to say, it like smells so good in here already.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, I have to ask you, the smells are clearly very specifically Korean and not necessarily what I would expect to be Russian. What's the connection?
So my grandparents moved to Sakhalin Island to build a railroad. Yeah. So when they moved there, they met this Korean lady that lived in the village, and she taught them how to cook fern. Because, as I mentioned before, we do have gardens. We call it dachas, right? But also...
Dachas.
Dacha, yeah. People were not rich in USSR. Everyone was equal, So
Right.
people needed it to have it produced to feed the families. A lot of people will go and forage, right? Forage. And the woman taught my grandma, and my grandma really liked it. And growing up, she would make it for us And I really loved it, because it has this like earthy, savory flavor to it. So it's very similar taste to mushrooms, which is like, if you don't like mushrooms, maybe like by consistency, you can substitute that with fern.
And it's surprising because, I mean, I just smelled it, and it almost smells like the ocean a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't expect mushroom, but I'm really anxious to
By
try
the
it.
taste, yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting. Just a side note, when you said you wanted to make something of a Korean nature, what I did was I looked up a little bit about Russian history. One of the things that I found was they said that after the fall of the Soviet Union, there was a big influx or influence of, I believe it was Indian, Italian, and Asian cultures. So I guess this might be something not just common to your family, but maybe a lot of people in Russia.
I would say it's probably common like Far East part of Russia, you know, which is part really close to Asia. And yeah, Russian culture been influenced by like Italian culture. You know, when they tried to build closer relationship with Russia and Italian, they were bringing like a lot of music and a lot of Italian films to the country. Same happened with India too. Like I grew up in like a lot of Indian movies as well. You know,
I did read that.
Yeah, we
film, music, art, a lot of different influences,
Yes.
which I think is neat. I mean, in the end, we have all these differences that are specific to particular cultures.
Yeah.
But so many cultural things that we think are unique to us were actually influenced by someone else. You know, everyone sort of thinks that spaghetti was actually created in Italy, but many people think that it came from China. But I read an article recently that said it actually probably came to Sicily first from the Middle East.
Makes sense.
Etria, I think, is a dish that they used to make. It was a military thing, and I think they had to pack what they called dry pasta that would last a long time. So it's kind of interesting. Oh my God, that smells so good.
We need to marinate it for now while we cook that.
Okay.
So we put sesame oil in it,
Okay.
and maybe we'll need it a little bit more actually.
Okay.
Soy sauce, and we need to mince some garlic.
Okay, I can do that.
Great. I like my garlic.
I always envy those chefs who can cut things really, really fast and really, really tiny. I'm always afraid I'm going to lose a finger.
It's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect. Oop, look, yes.
Okay. Any chef watching this would probably laugh at my lack of skills. Okay.
It smells so good.
Oh my God. Oh my
Right?
God.
That's what I'm saying.
It almost
That's
has.
what I'm saying.
It almost has like a peanutty.
Yeah.
You know when you get skewered chicken with the peanut sauce? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this smells delightful. It smells really good.
It's prepared basically already. I mean,
Just
not
heating
prepared.
it up.
Yeah, and just like we wanna like fry it a little bit, make it a little bit more golden, maybe.
Excellent.
So it's not gonna be as chewy.
Oh,
Maybe
nice.
It's gonna be a little bit crispier. So that's all. I mean, you see, I have a personal attachment to it because my grandmother would make it, and I grew up on this dish, you know. And that's so when every time I make it, it brings me to this place, you know, like memories and.
Well, they say
Family.
music, anything sensory, obviously brings you home. Do you get homesick?
Of course, yeah, I do. You know, what I get homesick of, like home cooking in general. It's not only like something like Russian dishes, but in general, because I'm busy in New York City, right? And sometimes for me it's easier to take out, you know.
Yeah.
Of course. And after a while, I'm getting sick of it. Like I want something simple, but like homey. Even like I will boil rice, you know, but the way I make it, the way I boil the rice.
And the way you were taught to make it by mom and grandma.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, right now I add sesame oil instead of regular olive oil, you know, so it gives a little bit different flavor.
And is that because that's what was available to you, or just because you wanted to play?
Because now it's available to me. Because back in the day, you couldn't really get that stuff.
Yeah.
You couldn't get that stuff back home, or you could have, but it will be very expensive.
So even the Korean woman who was teaching your family how to make it was using what she had available.
Oh,
it wasn't
yes.
like she had what she would have had in
Totally.
Korea.
Of course.
Okay, totally
Yeah.
makes sense.
Because back in the day, it was hard to get anything in and USSR back then when she taught my grandma. So we're gonna dump this in.
Ooh, I hear that sizzle.
Yes. So put all of it in. Yes.
I wish people watching this could smell this right now.
But I like it because this dish is very simple. It's not so many herbs and not so many spices. That's why you can actually taste the fern itself because it has this specific like earthy flavor.
So like
to
the
it.
spices aren't taken away from the fern, it's enhancing it.
Exactly, it's like complementing
Neat.
it. So yeah. So now we're gonna cook it for like 5, maybe 7 minutes.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, that I like to experiment with my cooking, that I haven't tried it before, and I like it spicy.
Okay, wait.
Good thing.
Hang on. I want to do this the right way.
I'm
I'm
yes.
just curious.
Actually, okay.
I just took a tiny bit. Ooh, yeah.
I don't know.
It has bite.
It has a bite?
Mhm.
Okay. So how much do you want to put it? Let's put it together.
Go for it.
Oh, okay.
You just get as daring as you want to get.
I had a permission, so.
Yeah. I think I may have created a monster.
You might. You just might.
Yeah, I'm psyched to try it. So this looks amazing. Do I try it first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, I know how it tastes.
Okay. It's almost like spaghetti. You almost want to twirl it. Oh my God.
What do you think?
It's really good. When I was growing up, there were certain table manners we were supposed to follow. My grandparents were very particular about not putting your elbows on the table. So, you'll always see me sitting like this. But were there any funny or interesting table habits that you were expected to follow? Etiquette, anything?
Well, my grandmother went through World War II, so our etiquette was to eat everything on your plate.
My family was absolutely the same way. But it's really interesting. I recently read that in some areas of China, if you are full and you want to stop eating, you should leave a little food on your plate and not eat the whole dish, because if they see your plate is empty, they'll keep refilling it because they think you haven't had enough. Table etiquette fascinates me. In some countries, if you burp after dinner, you're actually complimenting the host, whereas here people would look at you like there was something wrong with you. I think a lot of people in this country don't have an opportunity to travel much and see other countries, and so they're left to talk to people, which hopefully they do, like yourself, who've come from out of the country, to learn more. But a lot of people don't have the opportunity to even do that, maybe because they just don't know someone from Russia. So if you had an opportunity to tell everybody out there some things about Russia that either might surprise them or that they would find really beautiful and wonderful about the country, what would they be?
It's such a sad stereotype about Russians that we are very cold. But when I get to know you and I really open up, that's it. I'm gonna let you into my heart to the fullest. And then the same comes with like hosting. A lot of people told me too, when they went to Russia, they surprised how warming and inviting the country is, and people are too, and especially if you're lucky enough to know someone in Russia and they invited you for dinner, like you're gonna like roll from the house because it's so much food. It's gonna be a lot of drinking, and usually hosts don't want you to do anything. Even you will try to offer your help, right? They will tell you to like sit down.
Oh, so you can't even get up and help clean up?
No, because you're my guest. I'm gonna like take care of you completely. Okay, I mean, if you're my guest and we know each other and you're like, oh, can I help you with dishes? I'll say, okay, yes. But if I'm like just inviting you to my house for the first time, or you don't come to my house very often, even though we're close friends, it's my house, I'm gonna take care of you. And I feel like that's what really surprising for people, because we come out really like cold and reserved.
Clearly not, though, because look at you. So, all right. So that actually leads to another good question. I mean, I know you came to this country with, very little money, $300, I think we mentioned before, which is not much. 7 years ago. But what I didn't say was that you didn't speak an ounce of English, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So I don't know too many people who would pick up everything and come to a new country without money or the language and expect to be able to survive and make a living. I think it shows your bravery.
Thank you. Look, people say like, "Oh, you never been scared." Of course, I've been scared. But it was different. You know, it was different because I was scared because it was new and I didn't know what to expect. But it was also exciting. You know, it was exciting because it was like, "Oh, where is gonna bring me to?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And of course, all the people I met through all these years and opportunities I had and the stories I heard and the culture that you actually exposed to in New York City. Oh my God, it's fascinating. You know, one day I went to the store and I was in the alley trying to pick pasta. So this guy approaches me but he was Italian, like from the boat, you know, had this Italian accent. And I asked him, I was like, "Can you please help me to pick the pasta?" Oh my God. For 40 minutes, he went on about the color of the pasta, about different flowers and floors,
No,
right?
you were right. Flowers.
Flowers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it was so exciting because how passionate he was about it. And after that, I was like, okay, well, now we need to pick sauce. He was like, "Oh, no, this sauce is from a can.
No, you have to make it homemade.
Exactly. So he found this can of tomatoes from Sicily, right? And he was like, "That's perfect. You're gonna add a little like herbs, a little garlic in it, and that's it." I swear to God, it was one of the best pasta I ever made.
Yeah.
And it was so simple. And again, he made my day, maybe even a week probably, because it was such a great experience because I'm from Siberia. And I was thinking, where the hell in Siberia I would meet an Italian who'll teach me how to make pasta just on the go, you know?
So when you came to the United States, did anything about this country, and I hesitate to say that because depending on where you are in the country, your experience could be very different, right?
Yes.
Being in New York, coming to New York, and in this part of the region, was there anything that surprised you about Americans that seemed drastically different than what you'd come from?
I mean, of course, on my first month in New York, it was just everything was different. Now it's hard to recall because that's my home now. It's my home. But I was surprised to see so many cultures live together. You know what I mean? Like in the city, you walking around and different cultures, different religions, everything is combined. It's like we all in one pot, and you learn how to live with each other, you know, and it's fascinating. I love it. You know, like when I work home, for example, after work, right? I'm Russian, working home, stopping by at the store, and there is a guy, he's a manager's grocery store, and he's from Nigeria, and we're good friends for years now because I always pick up my groceries after work at 4 a.m, right? And then I walk down the street, and there's a vegetable stand, and it's an Indian guy, and I talk to him, or usually, like, also I'm on the phone with my mom, so all three of us will talk on the phone.
Oh, that's
and,
so
it's like
awesome.
A little family. And I love it because we live together. Look at us. Like,
yeah. I know some people who very often will have just sort of preconceived notions about what other countries are like. Let me give you a few specific ones I've heard that maybe you can counter.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think Russians drink all the time.
Oh,
if you watch a lot of movies, right? So Russians drink all the time.
We do drink a lot, but it's a little bit different culture, you know? You're never going to see people going on the lunch break and have a beer or glass of wine, which is in Europe, it's very common. In France, right? Even in America, I work in the service industry, so I see people come in and have a beer for lunch, which is like nothing wrong with that. You do you, but I'm saying it's not common to Russian culture. We usually wait until Friday. And oh boy, Friday comes in until Saturday or Sunday even, like we party.
Right. Another one is that things are so traditional in Russia that there's very little innovation and not a lot of room for individuality or growth. So is that true, or would you disagree?
Even with the art, I remember my first time when I went to MoMA when I moved to New York, and I was like a little bit shocked. I was like,
Well,
"What
it's
is
not
this?"
exactly, classical traditional art. I mean,
Exactly.
the Museum of Modern Art is all about expression and
Ex-
breaking boundaries and breaking rules. And so it doesn't fit into like a nice, neat little box.
Totally. And
Right?
it shouldn't. It shouldn't. My first experience of that first summer when I arrived, and I was like, whoa, this just, I don't know about this. And I was pretty judgmental. I will tell you that. Like, I will be honest. And then I remember when couple years after I lived in New York already, so we went again, and I noticed how pattern of my thoughts changed, because instead of judging, I was like, okay, let me see what artist statement is. And I would read it, and I would, okay, um, I get it, what you want to say. Maybe it's not my cup of tea particularly, but at least I hear you. Like,
you could appreciate the process,
exactly,
even if it wasn't the end result that visually was appealing to you.
Exactly.
So you're an actress, and acting is, clearly all about, finding the way you would step into someone else's skin, and it's all about exploration, right? And not kind of taking things from a formulaic approach, not where you're doing an equation where this plus this equals this, where you actually have to do some exploring to get to that point.
Yeah.
So is that something that you feel you're better able to do because of your intercultural experiences? Or was that just something that was natural to you, even as someone who's born in Russia?
Well, I always been curious. I always been curious as a kid, in art, but to be able to go to a museum and actually see that art, not in the book or not on the internet, is fascinating.
Yeah.
And of course, it expands world to me, you know what I mean? And of course, it helps to create, because I write as well. And my friend, he's an artist too, and when we spend that time together, sometimes I feel like, oh my god, I just wasted a couple of days. I've been reading, or I've been like going to museums, and it feels like I haven't done my work. And he always tells me, he's like, it's okay, like, this is, you have to do that to actually get inspiration, and it's gonna bring you somewhere else. You cannot just sit and like at home, for me, like, or anywhere, like in a cafe, and write, because you're gonna get drained, right? You need to get that inspiration. And I definitely can put my hands down and say that New York gives me that.
That's awesome. I think, what it really comes down to is you can be technically perfect because you've practiced technique over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah.
But to really bring emotion and passion to whatever art form you're pursuing, you need to actually live and meet people and have discussions and keep an open mind, and that sort of thing too.
But we have so many creative people in Russia. So even though we old fashion culture, we actually eager to create. Like, is how many great artists and photographers, videographers, that's where we come from, Russia. And it's fascinating because people wanted to create, and they still want to, you know what I mean? And,
so unlike what people think, which is this, sort of, okay, you're allowed to like paint by numbers, that's really not an accurate perception, that you are allowed and encouraged to explore.
Yeah, I feel like people encourage themselves. Like, yeah, we are old-fashioned country, and it's true because we're very old. I mean, our history is very old.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I mean, of course, people are gonna judge you and feel like they have to tell you how to live your life and what you're supposed to do with your life. But still, you're able to create, and maybe even it's better because when it is an obstacle there, people actually eager to actually go for it even more.
Break out of that mold.
Exactly. They were like, no, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So
when you're hungry for it, when you feel passionate about it, you're gonna pour everything into that.
Exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
So
totally. Okay, so you know what? All right, that brings me to another question. So I know, as a new friend of mine, what I think you have brought to this country that we all benefit from. What do you think are some of the things that you've brought to this country or that Russian immigrants have brought to this country that make this country more diverse and more wonderful?
You know, a lot of people who born in this country, right? They don't know the difference, so they don't really know what you've been born into, right?
Right.
So you don't appreciate the freedom, or you don't appreciate opportunities surrounded. We are immigrants coming here. We come with a reason, right?
Hmm.
Like, I mean, everyone has different reasons. Better life, more opportunities. I don't know, love, maybe.
Hmm.
Even, you know, who knows?
If they're lucky.
Yeah, if they're lucky, they had to come for love here. So we grab it, we go for it. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like we were like, okay, I know I'm more, my goal is more clear. You
Hmm.
know, it's not about American dream. I feel like American dream is what you dream. Like, what you do, you want to be like famous? Do you want to be happy? Do you want a house, or you just want to have a roof, like, yeah, a roof on, or maybe education? Everyone is so different, you know what I
Right.
mean?
So the dreams are different.
And that's why I feel like we do bring that life into America, you know, in
Well,
a certain way.
I was going to say, if I were to tell everyone what I see that you bring to our community, both the tri-state area, because you don't usually just stick to New York, you're out here in Connecticut right now, but also just to the global community, it is exactly those things. I think you have brought into my life and my circle of friends' lives insatiable energy. You're so curious and emotionally and intellectually curious. Your energy is just outstanding.
Thank you so much.
No, I'm really serious.
You
Like
make me cry.
I'm very fortunate to have you in my life as a new friend. And I
Thank
look,
you.
I look forward to spending a lot more time with you because you bring a lot of passion to everything you do, which means we all benefit from that. And I've sat at creative tables with you. Don't cry, baby. Um, I've sat at creative tables with you and walked away, having a million new ideas that inspire my work as someone who works in a global company and who has global passions, and also an artist and a writer. And I just think we feed off of each other.
Yeah,
We all do in our little
Mhm.
group. And it's just great to be able to share that with, people who are watching.
Yes.
So while we're ready to take our last bite, I would love to know, and this might be a tough one to answer. You were born in Russia. You've called New York your home just a little while ago.
Yes.
They're clearly both home. So do you see yourself as Russian? Do you see yourself as American? Do you see yourself as a crossbreed between the two? How has all of your life experience influenced how you see yourself?
I feel like I left Russia and my pattern of thoughts changed, my mentality changed, you know. And even though my friends said I didn't change, when I came home after being here for 4 years, and they told me the truth is, they said they were really afraid that I'm going to be different. And the minute we start talking, they were like, "Oh my God, you're the same." And I
Yeah.
was like, "I am. Why would I change?" But my mentality and certain things changed. You know what I mean?
But I think what you're describing, you're talking
Yeah.
about, you've had these multicultural experiences. It's not a question of whether you went from Russia to America or China to Brazil. Having those opportunities to meet people who've been brought up differently and who see things differently,
Mm-hmm.
they add to your perception and grow your take on what the world should be. You just see yourself as a member of the global community. You're just a world citizen.
Yeah, that's what I do actually at the bar when people, of course, I have an accent, but sometimes people cannot really place it,
Mm-hmm.
and they ask me like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I answer, "Earth."
I
I was
love
like,
it.
"Earth, brother."
And okay, so we perceive things differently depending on the way we were brought up.
Mm-hmm.
The great thing is if you're fortunate and you keep an open mind, you can recognize that, celebrate the similarities, but also celebrate the differences and see them as a good thing, not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I'm totally agree. Yes, sounds
Cheers.
good. Cheers. Let's finish. Our place, as my grandma said.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
mine too.
She'll be happy.
My grandma would be happy also.